Coming in at number 10, we have reptilian shapeshifters. This has to be one of the most bizarre and talked about conspiracy theories out there. If you don't know, I will give you guys a quick rundown. Former sportscaster David Icke decided one day that he was done telling people what the score of last night's footy game was and wanted to warn the world about reptilian aliens that have come from another dimension and have infiltrated every level of elite infrastructure that we have. These shapeshifters are called Anunnaki, and everyone from Kanye West to the Pope to Bill Clinton is one of them. They want nothing more than to steal your life force and see all of us suffer so they can feed off our suffering or something like that. I'm not really sure what it is. If you want some more details on this, you should check out one of the many insane books that David Icke has written on the matter. He claims that he has seen these shapeshifters shift shapes on live television, but it doesn't seem that he has any sort of plan to stop them other than don't use 5G networks. I mean, if you're gonna be the guy who tells us all the problems, you gotta bring in a few solutions. We need doers, not complainers. Coming in at number 9, we have immortals. If lizard people in all major industries weren't enough for you, how about immortals? At least immortals aren't inherently evil, but it's still spooky to think that someone can live forever, because it begs the question, how do they live forever? Is there some sort of ritual or spell that they have to follow? Do they drink the blood of virgins? Or maybe she's born with it, maybe she's Maybelline. But the talk of famous and rich people accessing the fountain of youth has been talked about for centuries. It has most recently been spoken about when people bring up side-by-side pictures of people like Keanu Reeves and Conan O'Brien with their ancient doppelgangers. So what do you think at home? Do you think there are rich and famous people who have found a way to never die and will walk the earth until the sun explodes and our solar system ceases to exist? Or do you think the chances of finding someone who looks like you are pretty high because it happens all the time? There's a bunch of you at home who are watching this who know someone who looks like me. He's Lenny Kravitz. Coming at number 8, we have Veronica Cedar. I feel like if you were born with superpowers, it would make your life so much simpler because you wouldn't have to make any career choices or wonder about what your place is in the world. You would have two options: become a hero or become a villain. Well, that's at least how I see it in my head. If I wanted real answers, I should just go ask Veronica Cedar. Now, Veronica didn't have the coolest superpower ever, but she still had something that was better than nothing. She could see 20 times better than the average person. Like, she could see people from miles away. She could pick up individual markings on buildings that most people couldn't see at all. Now, the question is, did this ability make her life more simple, more complicated, or did it not change anything at all? Coming in at number 7, we have virtual reality. This seems like something that should be the natural progression of technology. We should eventually be able to create worlds inside goggles so that people can abandon their boring lives and venture deep into wondrous worlds that may be more fulfilling than living in the real world. But a digital world that you can slap onto your face that is so real it could be indistinguishable from real life sounds like something pulled right out of the SCP Foundation. Even though we are not at that stage yet where we have VR goggles and software so perfect it can replace real life, we are probably going to get there within our lifetime. Also, the progress into VR tech has manifested the question of whether or not we are currently in a simulation and everything is fake. And if this is indeed a simulation, I would like to know what the cheat codes are because I want an upgrade for my life. This Corona DLC that has been updated into the world has not been my favorite. Next time, let's get something that gives me superpowers. Coming in at number 6, we have the Asp Caterpillar. This crazy critter has worked its way onto this list for 2 reasons. The first being that it has a very strange plume of hair that surrounds it. This bug looks like it was pulled right off your favorite anime character's head and then was given life by another anime character. And the second reason that I've chosen this insect to don the number 6 spot is the fact that it is extremely venomous. This thing won't kill you, but the spines that are hidden in its cool hairdo will send some pain through your body that will give childbirth a run for its money. Coming in at number 5, we have the Voynich manuscripts. An old text that no one can figure out is the perfect thing for the SCP Foundation. The Voynich manuscript is a codex that has some lovely drawings of plants on it that no one has ever seen before, and it's in a language that no one has ever seen before, and it's all locked away in a code that no one has ever been able to get to the bottom of. There are a few theories as to what could be going on with this. Some say that it could be the work of a dark wizard who hid his spells away in a secret language. Others say this could be an alien text, and some say it's all crap. Coming in at number 4, we have ghosts and demons. Are they real? Are they not? Who knows, but enough people believe in them to have everyone freaked out. I think we all have a friend who is convinced that ghosts are real, who swears that they have encountered them. There's also countless stories of people being possessed by spirits. The movie The Exorcist is based on a real possession story, and sometimes at night it can feel like someone is lingering close to you even though it seems seems like no one is around you. Well, let's just hope if ghosts and demons are real, they only like to be cool and do cool things, and they don't want to harvest our souls for their own enjoyment. At number 3, we have artificial intelligence. Now, AI is still at the starting stages. We can create AI to do simple tasks like recognize faces or sort information. It's nowhere close to the self-teaching, all-knowing, dangerous God state that everyone is afraid of. But you have to admit that AI is the exact kind of thing that would be logged away in the SCP Foundation. And there has been some signs of intelligence coming through artificial intelligence systems. Some eggheads over at Facebook decided they wanted to see what would happen if 2 separate AIs could talk to each other, and they quickly developed their own language that communicated way faster and way more efficiently than any known human language. So if we do get to the point where AI is running loose, just know that we won't stand a chance. Coming in at number 2, we have DMT, probably the most intense psychoactive drug on the planet, and the crazy thing is that it's something that naturally produces in your brain. DMT, also known as dimethyltryptamine, is a chemical that is found in all plants, animals, and living things on the planet. It is produced in a pure form right inside your brain and released in large doses when you're born, when you die, and released in small doses when you dream. People have found a way to consume DMT through 2 different methods. Either through an ayahuasca ceremony where people drink ayahuasca tea that can make you hallucinate for up to 12 hours or more depending on the dosage, or there's also when people smoke the pure form of the drug, which gives you a hyper-intense blast for about 5 minutes. People who experience this drug say there is an overall feeling of being transported to another world and they lose all connection with their physical body. Some say that you can use this drug to communicate with the 5th dimension. And if that is true, the SCP Foundation would be all over this interdimensional communication tool. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have Wim Hof, probably one of the coolest people that you have never heard of. Wim Hof is someone that everyone should be researching because he might be the closest thing to a real-life superhero, and he can teach his powers to you. Wim Hof is also known as the Iceman, and through a meditative breathing practice, he is able to withstand freezing temperatures for an indefinite amount of time. He climbed 24,000 feet up Everest in shorts and sandals. He set the world record for the longest underwater ice swim, where his retinas froze and he had to feel his way out of the exit. He did a long-distance polar ice run barefoot, where his only clothes were shorts. He had to stop halfway because his feet were destroyed with frostbite. The doctors that were accompanying him told him that he would lose both his feet. He laughed, went into a tent, meditated for a few hours, and came out with his feet completely healed, and then continued his run. He has taught other people this breathing technique to master the control of your body. So not only is this guy unlocking human abilities that have never been seen before, he's also sharing them with people. You can literally become a superhero and no one's talking about it. If the SCP Foundation was real, they would be all over this guy.
Starting us off at number 10 is Nosferasu. That creature was utterly terrifying, and beyond the movie, I don't need to see him ever again. Ever. This one comes from Reddit user D-Day Dodger, who shared that when they were 10 years old, their family lived in a farmhouse in this rural area. Their bedroom was actually their parents' walk-in closet, and their bed was on the floor. That would have been very annoying for the parents. Like, what if they wanted to, get down to it, and their little kid was just in the walk-in closet, like, give us some privacy. Either way, one night as the user was sleeping, something awoke them in the middle of the night, and when they opened their eyes, they were horrified. There was this black humanoid figure crouching next to the bed with its face not even a foot away from the user's face. Eyes wide open, the demon was just staring at the user as it started moving closer. Instead of screaming, the user just hid under the blankets, which is a great call for when it's night and you don't want the demons to get you. I used this tactic a billion times while I was growing up, and clearly I'm still here and fine, so it does work. Either way, the user fell asleep while feeling the demon thing breathe on them and woke up the next day alone in their room. All they said was that the demon looked a lot like Nosferasu, and that means I don't need to see this demon. Nope. Coming in at number 9 is Laura. Back in March of 2015, 22-year-old Laura from Argentina seemed inherently possessed by some demon or another. Her family were concerned, her friends were scared, and the options were getting slim. Bishop Manuel Asuna stepped in and performed an exorcism on her, and the process was grueling. You can see her writhing and banging her head on the ground in the video, and she's doing all that while being held down by 2 women. Bishop Manuel is part of the bishops at Lutheran Charismatic Church, and they all believe that the demon exists. He's not an idea or a theory, he's not something abstract, he's something terrifying, a fallen angel. The devil is not a metaphor, the devil is something real that Jesus Christ faced. The devil looks for the perdition of the human being, and for this he will use any possible evil instrument. And by that, they just mean possessing humans, so they are definitely among us. They're probably all devils. At number 8 we have Lucifer. Back in 1997, Father Gabriel Amorth was confronted with a demon in the form of a young lanky peasant man. Amorth founded the International Association of Exorcists back in 1994 and has a never-ending list of people who he's exorcised. He shared that some liberations take months and others can take years. Can you imagine being possessed for years? Like, you don't get that time back. What a betrayal. Either way, while the exorcism was going on, a moth asked Jesus for help and the man started spitting and cursing at him in English even though he could only speak fluent Italian. The guy began to howl and scream and froth at the mouth and was seemingly ready to attack the priest. After more prayers and ritual recitations, he asked the demon what its name was and the man snarled back saying, "I am Lucifer." At this point, the guy's back was unnaturally arched and he was just screaming as his eyes rolled back. The room got so cold to the point ice crystals were forming on the walls and windows, and then the guy straight up started levitating. Say no more, I don't need to continue. Filling our number 7 slot is the Bible. Now I just want to preface this one with the fact I'm not Christian, so I have not read the Bible. I'm taking the information and interpretation of this from sources online, so if something's not completely correct, then I apologize for my ignorance. Just let you know. Olufemi Olusanmi shared on Quora that according to Ephesians 6:12, New King James Version, it says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." Meaning it's simply not normal or human for people to kill, betray, and hurt others. Anytime a human does any of those despicable acts, it's actually a demon doing them. So technically, demons live among us in abundance. Serial killers seem to have happy relationships with their demons, others do not. Suffice it to say though, they are everywhere. Now, at number 6 is Home Alone. This story was shared by an anonymous Quora user who said back in 2018, her husband went on a business trip for a night, so she was home alone with their 2 young sons. The wife put them to sleep and then got into bed herself at around 11 PM. For some reason, that night she couldn't fall asleep and kept waking up every hour or so with this feeling that her front door wasn't properly locked. At 3 AM, she got out of bed and checked the door, and true enough, it was locked and deadbolted. But I so relate to this. I always think my front door is unlocked even though I've checked it a billion times, but then I go check again because I have OCD, so there's that. Anyway, she went back to bed to find her kids awake a few minutes later. When the sun started rising, someone rang the doorbell and everyone thought the dad had come home early. As she reached the door with her kids, she kept getting this overwhelming feeling to not open the door. Her son goes to open it and she stops him before looking through the peephole and seeing an unknown man with his back to the door. When he turned around, the woman could see his thick black hair and no face. It was just a blank face. She gasped loud enough for the demon man to hear her that he started banging on the door, but she wouldn't open it. This went on for another 10 minutes before he finally left. No face, are you sure it wasn't a lucid dream? That is screwed up. Coming in at number 5 are Wendigos. I've done a 2-part series on Wendigos before, so check those out if you haven't watched them already, but this creature hails from the folklore of the First Nations Algonquin tribes in Canada and the US. Seen as evil spirits or demons, they can possess a human, making them do horrible things like murder, become cannibals, or become incredibly greedy and more. Their reputation is so bad within indigenous communities that Wendigo psychosis is a thing where people are so terrified of becoming a cannibal or Wendigo, but they're also simultaneously craving human flesh with a very high intensity. It's a very paradoxical situation. Between the late 1800s and 1920s, locals of a small town called Roseau in Minnesota reported sightings of the Wendigo. Every time anyone in town saw the demon, someone would unexpectedly die soon after. Not much is known about the sightings or why they occurred, but they eventually stopped, as did the deaths, and everything went back to normal. At number 4 is Julia. Now, Julia's case is quite recent. It only happened in 2008, but I say that's recent even though that was 12 years ago, but it seemed like 2. Anyway, Dr. Richard Gallagher, a self-proclaimed man of science, became the go-to guy for exorcisms in the US. He saw it with his own eyes countless times, people suddenly speaking perfect Latin, sacred objects flying off shelves, a whole bunch. So one day he was called to help a woman dubbed Julia. She was a charming normal woman, but was also a high priestess of a satanic cult, and one day she went to a priest claiming she was being attacked by a demon. Objects would fly off shelves around her, she knew things about Richard there was no way she could have known, and even when he was on the phone to a priest, they both heard her demonic trance voices, which was impossible because she was thousands of miles away and nowhere near a phone whatsoever. Julia gained abilities that she didn't have before joining the cult, and anytime she went into a demonic trance, she'd have no recollection of what had gone on. They tried exorcising her, during which she started speaking in tongues, exhibiting superhuman strength, levitating and changing the temperature of the room, and it ultimately failed. She refused to leave the cult or stop worshipping Satan, meaning the team couldn't do anything for her. Julia eventually got cancer and didn't want to die possessed, but Gallagher never heard from her again and presumed she was dead. Filling our number 3 slot is Amy Stamatis. Back in November of 2006, Amy climbed into an open window of an apartment building in Arkansas and threw herself off of it, paralyzing herself from the waist down. When asked about the incident, she said she didn't jump but definitely fell. Amy had been having dark thoughts for months and started hearing voices telling her to kill herself. While in the hospital, she was visited by a woman who claimed she had raised the dead and that she could see demons inside of Amy. In the months leading up to the incident, weird things started happening to her. At the end of a 24-hour shift at the hospital, Amy fixed up a burned patient and then completely forgot how to do her job. She didn't even know where she was, and that was her last shift. Previously a marathon runner, she couldn't even run straight anymore, let alone pick her clothes out. Pentecostal evangelist Cindy Lawson met Amy and said she saw the demons surrounding her and compelling her to hurt herself and others. Now at number 2 is Gina. So back in 1990, Reverend James LaBar performed many exorcisms, one of which were on a Florida teen called Gina. Her exorcism was televised by the ABC network in 1991. Can we just? Is that even humane? Gina was hospitalized for displaying psychotic behavior, and she went from that to tabloid fodder. Was she even capable of consent at this time? During the exorcism, which 29 million people tuned into, Gina is strapped to a chair while she barks at the priest and speaks in gibberish. She was possessed by demonic spirits. One was called Zion and the other Minga. The priest pressed a cross to her face saying, "You want pain, I'll give you pain," and then read the Roman Catholic rite of exorcism. After she was sent home, she was re-hospitalized and given antipsychotic drugs within a few days. A psychiatrist claimed the exorcism was a serious risk to her health and that she may just be delusional. Either way, I feel like something that puts you in that vulnerable of a space and at a time you don't have control over what you're doing should not be televised. That's just me though. And finally, at number 1 is Zurich. So this one was shared by Reddit user Hamish051, and he said that back in October of 2017, his band were on a European tour and was staying in a super old building in Zurich. Like, the building was built in 1260, it was old as shit. Anyway, the Airbnb was surprisingly super clean, and Hamish decided to sleep on his blow-up mattress. As the group was getting ready to go out in town, they saw a leaflet on the table telling them how old the building was, which was crazy to them. They honestly had no idea based on how well it had been renovated. Either way, the bandmates went out while Hamish stayed in and went to sleep. He woke up a while later at 3:30 AM due to the sound of a dripping tap. His bandmate had told him he was going to take a bath when he got back, so Hamish was pissed he was being so loud about it. He tried going back to sleep when he felt a large weight on the bottom left corner of his mattress, and it launched him into the air. He had an almost instant panic attack as ice shock went through his body. He felt a nudge and then another one. Hamish took off his blankets and saw the shape beyond the bed. It was this girl who was about 5'6", with hair down to her feet and no face. She was soaking wet and she had no face. He tried to scream but no sound was coming out, so he hid under the blankets and fell asleep terrified. He woke up to see one of his bandmates working at the table and another one, Gary, who was just waking up. He looked like a smacked ass, and so Hamish asked him if he had slept okay, and he said, "Mate, you would not believe me if I told you." Gary and Hamish had seen the exact same demon girl the night before.
At number 10, we have Kitsune. Now, this one has also been associated with Gumiho from Korean legends or Hulijing from Chinese legends. It is a creature that appears as a fox with shape-shifting abilities, and it's commonly a trickster. In the Korean legends, a Gumiho can freely transform into many things, but most commonly into beautiful women. These Gumiho in female form then set out to seduce boys and eat either their liver or their heart depending on the legend. Both Kitsune and Gumiho have also been recorded as far creepier as well. Some have been recorded to be bloodthirsty half-human half-fox hybrids that lurk in cemeteries. They would wait until night and then dig human hearts out from graves and eat them. At number 9, we have La Segua. Now this one comes from a Costa Rican legend, and it originated as a device to scare men into being loyal and stay close to home at night. Men would be charmed by La Segua's beauty as they wander home. She would appear out of a fog with porcelain skin, long black hair, and big dark eyes. Men would just forget about their wives and ask if she needed to be escorted home. They would turn again to look at her beauty, and she had changed. Once they finished their offer, La Segua would be completely transformed. They would look and she would have turned from beauty to a nightmare, appearing as a monster with a horse's head. She would have flaming red eyes and big yellow teeth. She was rumored to make men go insane and sometimes didn't let them leave with their life. At number 8, we have a lycanthrope, aka werewolf. Lycanthrope? You tell me. But let's just say I'm not talking about the big bad wolf. But let's be real, he had a pretty convincing moment as the grandmother, and that is he a shapeshifter? But let's be real, I'm talking about werewolves. While they are not fully pretending to be human, they come up often enough and it would be wrong not to include them on this list. Werewolves are frequently depicted in folklore and often come up as creatures that wreak havoc on the natural world. They are seen as creatures unable to stop themselves from transforming into a bloodthirsty wolvish beast. They got this curse in some lore as a punishment from God, a kind of divine smite against those who provoked their wrath. Other ways of becoming a werewolf or shapeshifting was by wearing an animal skin or drinking water out of the footprint of an animal. Just a little sip and then boom, wolf. I kind of want to try it. Maybe. On to number 7, a Selkie. When you think of a water-sea-human hybrid, a mermaid might be what comes to your mind. But they are permanently caught in between. They have a human top half and a fishy lower half, but Selkies, on the other hand, they can truly roam the land and sea. Selkies are commonly found in Northern European mythology. Their main form is the seal form, and in order to shapeshift into human form, they need to shed their seal skin. Now, this is risky for Selkies because it is rumored that they need their own original seal skin to return to their seal form. But once they're in human form, they have also been known to lure humans into the sea. They seduce people and create illusions to form a false sense of reality, leading the humans into their death out in the sea. At number 6, Encantado. Now this legend comes from the Amazon. The Encantado are said to be a water cryptid that lives in the Amazon River. Most of the time they are a pink river dolphin, but once a year they come out of the river. They shapeshift into a young man in white clothes for a Brazilian celebration in June. The one thing that doesn't change in their form is the blowhole from the dolphin form, so the Encantado have to wear a hat to keep their disguise intact. Allegedly, it is dangerous to see or be near the Encantado at these festivals. This is because they attend the parties in order to seduce, kidnap, or impregnate young women. Just like other stories like these are thought to be a way to convince young women not to trust handsome strangers because they may just be a pink dolphin in disguise. Encantado, a pink dolphin in disguise. On to number 5, Rakshasa. The Rakshasa is a humanoid being in Hindu mythology. It was also later incorporated into Buddhism. Now, the Rakshasa were created by the breath of Brahma, the creator god in Hinduism, when he was asleep. They apparently were so bloodthirsty they started eating Brahma himself. So Vishnu came to his aid and banished the Rakshasa to earth. They were most often depicted as ugly, fierce-looking, and enormous creatures. They were shown with 2 fangs protruding upwards and having sharp, claw-like fingernails. They are mean, growl like beasts, and have an insatiable desire to eat man, all of the way to the point that they can even smell the scent of human flesh. Some of the more ferocious Rakshasa were shown with flaming red eyes and hair, drinking blood with their palms or from a human skull. Most Rakshasa had magical powers of illusion called Maya, which enabled them to change size at will and assume the form of any creature. Using this, they could disguise themselves as a human. At number 4, the Napurabi. The Napurabi is a ghost that looks human but has no face. They can often feign having human facial features, but can wipe them off like wiping off a chalkboard. An old tale about them, called the Napurabi in the Koi Pond, goes like this. A lazy fisherman decided to fish in the imperial koi ponds near the Heian-Kaio Palace. Despite being warned by his wife about the pond being sacred and near a graveyard, the fisherman went anyways. On his way to the pond, he is warned by another fisherman not to go there, but he again ignores the warning. Once he's at the spot, he is met by a beautiful young woman who pleads with him not to fish in the pond. He then ignores her and, to his horror, she wipes off her face. Rushing home to hide, he is confronted by what seems to be his wife, who then chastises him for his wickedness before wiping off her facial features as well. Just full on like, Cause like just imagine you're chatting someone up and they give you just one of these and just is going like, but like the face is gone. But on to number 3. Ghoul. The ghoul from Arabic folklore is said to lurk around uninhabited places like cemeteries. It lures people to deserted locations or abandoned places to kill and devour them. It is said to prey on young children, drink blood, steal coins, and eat the dead as well. This may be why the lore says they lurk around cemeteries, since they're trying to eat the dead. Now, after eating their prey, they are said to take on the form of the person they most recently ate. Other tales of the ghoul say it dwells in the desert and can assume the guise of a hyena. Using this form, it is said to lure people into the desert wastes. In the vampire book, The Encyclopedia of the Undead, a ghoul is said to roam throughout the wilderness of Afghanistan and Iran. Number 2. Doppelganger. So there are also superstitions that claim the doppelganger is a non-human entity which can alter its physical appearance to literally become someone else and take their place. Obviously, they are not human beings, but they look just like the person they are trying to mimic. In old lore, it was said that the doppelganger consumed the original person once they looked the exact same and met them. The stories of doppelgangers were used to explain early and misunderstood cases of Alzheimer's. Also, they were used as an answer to severe depression or violent thoughts of mothers. The latter was being used as a justification since it was believed that no mother could ever hurt her own child unless she wasn't truly the mother, just someone else entirely. All in all, the thought of someone in your life being replaced by an entity which only pretends to know you and care about you is pretty creepy. And last but not least, at number 1, the devil. So the devil and demons have believed the best way to get humans to sin is to be among their ranks. Essentially, peer pressure. So to do this, devils and demons will assume human form. They can either possess a human or disguise themselves as one. Old folklore says they could easily be spotted, and they often forgot to hide some of their more prominent features. Features like horns on their head or forked tongues. The devil himself apparently forgot to hide his hooved feet quite a bit. Now once devils and demons are found out, they usually disappear, but not always. If the human target doesn't renounce them but instead chooses to make a deal, there could be consequences.
Kicking off the list at number 10, the Tulip Staircase. We'll dive right into the spooky goodness with a 1966 classic. This photo looks like the cover of a horror movie or a Kendrick Lamar album. It looks set up, right? It looks nice. The black and white hue with the ghostly figure slowly making its way up the Tulip Staircase, okay? This photo is from 1966, and experts in photography all agree that this photo here has not been tampered with at all. So how scary is that? Makes you ask some questions, right? We didn't have Photoshop or deepfakes back in 1966. We barely had a camera, right? Haunting, yes, but since it looks almost too good to be true, we'll leave this at number 10. Let's move on. Number 9, power problems. This one's for sure real. Went from maybe to definitely real. This comes from a middle-aged man in Oxford, North Carolina. It was his day off work. He was looking to relax all day, just kick back and hang out in the house. Then out of nowhere, on his day off, the lights start to flicker, and immediately the smoke detector also goes off. What's happening? The lights were flickering all over the house, not just in one room. The fridge, the bathroom, any light at all, it was flickering. Even the water started to run by itself, so no, it was not an electrical issue. He filmed all these happenings, of course, but when he looked back on all the footage, after running to safety, he caught this photo of a demon peeking from the other room. Check it out. There's another peeking demon photo on this list. I don't know what it is about demons, but they like peeking out at you. Yeah, it's haunting. Stay tuned. Number 8, house guest. For this next one, we'll be taking a look at a video. I know, I said demon photos. This one's so small that it may as well be a photo. Nothing too crazy happens. Check it out. Keep an eye on the staircase next to the kitchen. Didn't see anything? Okay, what about now? This footage was taken August 8th, 2019. It's around 1 a.m. in the home of an unnamed family. Always a good sign. I've seen too many of those paranormal activity movies to watch this. This is creepy. I wouldn't even be able to watch footage of my own house with those like hidden cameras, you know what I mean? Like I'd be afraid to go through and scroll. What if I find something? Then what? The cat doesn't notice anything in this video, which is either a really good sign or a really bad sign. Because cats see everything, right? They're so mischievous. Cats will be like mid-conversation and all of a sudden just... Number 7, playtime. We know demons like to play games, I guess, so this next one here seems rather fitting. Seeing as it takes place in a Toys R Us. Yeah, you heard me. Bay Area's haunted Toys R Us. They locked its doors forever as of 2018. The aisles may be closed, but do the ghosts still haunt the building? Are there haunted toys walking around? Is there a haunted Buzz Lightyear that's gonna come out and extend its wings at me? The Sunnyvale Toys R Us demon appeared in the background of this photo. Others seen in this photo, you know, people who aren't demons, they all swear nobody else was there at the time of this photo. Nobody haunting, at least. Could this be a spirit caught in a photo that just happens to be at a Toys R Us? I mean, it's kind of funny, but like, you know, ghosts don't have to haunt scary things. They can haunt normal things too. They can haunt hotels, they can haunt old restaurants, and Toys R Us apparently. I don't know. Demons are demons. They can do what they want. Employees have talked about creepy things happening at night at this location. It's not the only time it's happened. Yeah, fun. It turns out that Sunnyvale store is indeed haunted by more than one ghost. The store stood where the Murphy farm once stood. So many think it's the spirit of Johnny Johnson. I don't know, sounds like a Ghost Rider villain. This sounds kind of like a made up story. But who knows? Ouija boards are considered toys. Can you believe that? So maybe he's just trying to get a phone. Maybe he's trying to get a new phone plan. I don't know. Number 6, Coventry Society Demon. When it comes to these old-timey photos, everybody looks like a ghost no matter what, right? It's always blurry, it's black and white, there's smudges that appear all over the place. So sometimes when you see them, you want to give it a good idea. You're like, oh, maybe it's not a demon, maybe it's a nice ghost. Maybe it's someone who I know who has passed away, and this specific smudge here is them coming to visit. Sure, I'm not gonna knock that, that's a great idea, awesome. Well, it's nice to believe that photos like this from the Coventry Freeman Society shows everybody that demons might actually be real. This event has everybody dressed to the nines, but when you look at the top left over here, you see a hooded figure. Somebody that clearly doesn't belong with the vibe in this room. I don't know what kind of party this is, but this dude does not blend in. He got the wrong memo. He's like, oh, I thought you said it was like a costume kind of thing with like hoods. They're like, no, it's formal, Roger, come on. Nobody else was seen wearing a hood like this, so many believe it was a dark part of the afterlife. Just, you know, photobombing this event. Demons, always pranksters, hopping in at photos, peeking around corners. Classic, they like pranks. Number 5, the Amityville Photo. This photo was taken inside the Amityville house back in 1976. It appears to be a young boy with glowing white eyes. He's pretty hard to miss there. See him? Right there, yeah, you got it, nice, good eye. At first, I thought this was from a horror movie that I missed, you know? Like, it looks so obviously fake or set up in some way, until you start to read up on the details. This photo was taken with automatic cameras equipped with infrared, so this young lad here probably wasn't expecting a selfie. Photographer Gene Campbell took this photo in 1976, and Gene at the time was working with paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. So that's how you know this bit of history here is real, to some degree. The photo was revealed 3 years after it was taken on the Merv Griffin show, and many believe this is the ghost of the young John DeFeo, one of the boys who lived there in 1974. Number 4, the Specter of Newbie Church. From all the way back in 1963, this photo has been passed around from time to time. We've mentioned it on this channel before, it's pretty good. It's one of the most convincing if you ask me, considering its date. Is this the demon of General Grievous from Star Wars? This guy's, what is going on here? He's haunting, very tall. Looks like he has 4 lightsabers. Reverend K.F. Lord took this photo in England at the Newbie Church, and Lord ensures us that this photo is 100% real. Would anybody named Lord lie to us? You know, I'm just saying. I think not. The photo looks too good to be true, I'll admit. I mean, this entity is literally facing the camera, you know, so I get it. The figure appears to stand on the first step of the altar, yet somehow it's still taller than the altar. Super Tall Demons from 1963. This was almost number 1. Almost. You'll see. Number 3, a helping hand. This photo is pretty old, hence convincing. This time the photographer may or may not have caught a floating spirit hands. Apparently they're a thing. Awesome. I'll show you the photo, you let me know if you see it at first. Take a good look. Anything sticking out? Any little creepy hands crawling around? No? This photo is a group of women who worked in a linen factory. The lady on the far right appears she has an extra hand there, resting on her shoulder. At a weird angle too. Maybe she was scratching her back and then was like, hey, cheese. You know? No, it's impossible. I did the math. I tried. There's no way. I'm a lanky guy. I tried this in the office. There's no way. This is definitely a demon hand. It looks curled almost, the hand. Like, I don't want to roast somebody's hand and say it looks demonic. It's just the fact that we can see the open space next to the right of the lady in the photo and there's nobody standing there. That's what makes this convincing. I'm not like, oh, it's a skinny, veiny hand. That's got to be a ghost. Some guy's like, thanks, man. What? No, there's no one standing there, that's the whole point. This reminds me of the movie Idle Hands. This gives me the creeps. That movie scared me growing up, I don't like it. Phantom hands? No thank you. Unless you're hitting that thumbs up there shall be no phantom hands in my premise. Number 2, ancient Egyptian demon paintings. Yes, I said paintings, okay? Hear me out. This list is full of the most convincing paranormal photos on the internet, but I had to toss in a little treat, a little historical treat. Demons have been putting fear into the minds of ancient Egyptians even 4,000 years ago. Yeah, demonology is not a new thing. It's not like horror movies came out and it's like, oh, there's demons now. Old, really old. Back in 2016, Whale Sherbini, who specializes in ancient religious texts, found the image of not 1, but 2 demons. They found them painted on 2 Middle Kingdom coffins. The demon represented here is the demon Ikinti. It's represented as a large bird with a cat's head, a black cat's head. This evidence was presented at the International Conference on Ancient Egyptian Demonology over at Swansea University in the United Kingdom. Am I attending the wrong meetings in life? I need to go check out some ancient Egyptian demonology conferences. That sounds like a great time. What? Another example of demons being present in ancient Egyptian days was the image of Amut. Amut is a female demon whose body was part hippo, part crocodile, and part lion. Hard to miss. And finally, coming in at number 1, the Manila Demon. No, I didn't say vanilla demon. That sounds delicious. This is much scarier. This is one of my biggest fears in life, okay? To go on a trip, take a bunch of photos with a wind-up camera, that would be the worst. come back and then find something haunting that I missed in real life in the photos, right? That's like every horror movie, it's the worst. That's exactly what happened when two friends posed for a photo together in the Philippines. This was back in 2000. At the time, they didn't feel anybody grab their arm, which I fully believe because there's no reaction in this photo. Also, if somebody was that close, somebody they didn't know, there's no chance they would sneak into the frame that quickly. Also, is this demon Dobby the house elf? What? This is not a haunting look, but it's definitely a look. It looks like a bridge troll with tiny hands, but either way, I'm all set.